mugwumps, they're everywhere. They're speaking out at board meetings, city hall, town square, courthouse, state house, even the White House. They must be stopped. They are disruptors.
Welcome again, everyone, to Mugwump Media. We are so happy that y'all are paying a visit to us today at Disruptor Central. Now, over here to my right is my husband, Kevin. Kevin, I have one question for you. Are the cameras on this?
Well, if there's ever any question about our qualifications or our expertise, I'm thinking that's been pretty well solved because we're not qualified, I don't think.
Boomer ingenuity strikes again, unfortunately. Yeah. We should have had our grandson over here helping us.
It would have.
So here's what happened. A couple of days ago, we had our wonderful friend, Dr. John Vaughan, over here for an interview. It was the first time he'd been into our new studio. We were so excited to see him. Now, this was actually the second time that we had tried to interview John. The first time, for some weird, unknown reason, very strange, we literally lost one of the vocal tracks. Now, that was early on. That was before we had video. I mean, it was gone. We couldn't find it anywhere. Kevin's like, I can't find it. So we thought, okay, we got the video going now. We're going to have him in again. We were so excited. And he was too. He was taking pictures. We had a great time. So this time, we breezed through the interview. Man, the vibe was good. Everything was going great. Until John left and we discovered that two of the cameras had died. There was nothing that was actually filmed, except for John. We did get John's filmed. Yeah. So we decided to not let this crazy stuff beat us. We're just going to go ahead and post the show as is because it was really good. John's great. He's an amazing guy. He's had such a long, illustrious career, and he's one of these people. The neat thing about him is he's a mentor. He's never lost the fire. He started in the 80s, and a lot of times people that started years and years ago, you kind of think, hey, they're stuck in their ways. Not John. John is current. And he loves Gen Z. He talks about going in and talking to them wherever he finds them. And he's looking for that big revival that's coming too. So we were so excited to talk to him. Anyway, we won't be in the video probably. Kevin might drop some stuff in, to entertain you guys. We've got some great pictures. We had a photo shoot.
We did.
Great.
We got pictures.
We'll see. We'll see how this comes out.
Or maybe the other video will show up.
Regardless, you all are in for a real treat today. John Vaughan, like I said before, he's a pioneer in church building, never lost his fire from 45 years ago. And honestly, even though his long history of leadership and service officially started in around the church in 1980, that wasn't actually the beginning. He was a very young man during the Jesus Revolution, 1960s and 1970s. That's one of the things I love about him. He's still got that fire and that flavor. So he was active and working for the Lord long before he actually started. The Campus Crusade for Christ, he talks about that, the Jesus People movement. And I, honestly, like I said, I would consider him to be a pioneer in the current revival in the making among the young ones that's going on now. I'd love to hear him talk. He has extensive education. He's a prolific author, speaker with many books and publications, national and international media appearances to his credit. Matter of fact, I think one of the follow-ups, he was talking about actually being in Time magazine. They did an interview with him. Go figure. An amazing guy, again, but yet very humble, extremely humble. John has worked and consulted for the Southern Baptist Convention. He's also pastored and worked within many Baptist churches on staff. He's made the rounds. And he lists as his specialty megachurches. U.S. and global, largest and fastest growing churches of all sizes since 1980. Now, remember, Kevin, right around that time period is when the mega churches were starting to spring up. And John did a lot of research. He helped out those churches get a start because I can't even imagine running a church that big. But you'll hear John. He's a humble guy. And right out of the chute, whenever he starts talking in the video, he immediately, he doesn't discount it, but he talks about God's going to work. Wherever the Spirit is, God's going to work in whatever size church. And he talks about the first church he was in where there were more bumblebees than people, which is funny. I hate to steal his line and be a spoiler, but it was good. And, the neat thing is John is still going strong. He still has an active research and consulting firm, International Megachurch Research Center in Springfield, Missouri. Now, the way Kevin and I met John was in the community. We saw this guy, a very distinguished, sweet, older gentleman, working with the grassroots patriots, working with the churches. He loves the church in Springfield. He goes and visits them all, tries to encourage them. Waking up. He tries to wake up generations, wake up churches. That's his mission. And the thing we love most about him is his zeal to take back, get out on the battlefield and take back the ground that the enemy has stolen. So he's an inspiration to Kevin and I. You guys are going to enjoy him, I really believe. So, folks, get a cup of coffee, sit back, put your feet up, and enjoy this interview with a remarkable man, Dr. John Vaughan.
Glad to be here.
We're so glad we got you back again.
Let me say a word.
Sure.
All the major media is about my megachurch involvement, but the small church is the backbone of American church.
That's right.
Yes.
My first church, I grew up in a large church, but my first church had 2 people in my first week. Out in open country, we met in the house. I had more bumblebees than I had people. So, I understand the small church. And some of my best friends here, I remember pastors of small churches locally.
Absolutely.
Go ahead.
You bet.
But I'm not intimidated by a large church.
No, obviously not. Good grief. Like I said, you got a long pedigree, John. Whenever Kevin and I talk about you, when we talk about the other pastors, because we've interviewed several pastors that are they're patriots, they're firebrand. That's what we call them. And you are always included in their ranks, John, always. You're a pioneer of the firebrand pastor. We love
God
that.
has been very good to me.
Yes, he has. I told you one time that I thought you were a disruptor. I said, John, you're a mugwump. And you said, well, Jesus was a disruptor, which cracked me up, just kind of matter of fact. And I remember you saying, and I love this, you said that we have to be a voice like John the Baptist in our time. Mm-hmm. And you're so right. John the Baptist might not be too popular if he showed up at church
He
nowadays.
wasn't popular in his time.
I don't think
either.
Jesus would be in a lot of places either.
Nope.
You're absolutely
I think
right.
he'd be embarrassed.
Might not be welcome. You are so right.
I've heard that we're not supposed to fit in this world very well.
Right.
We're here
That's
to-
the truth.
Yes.
That's the truth. John, can you talk just a little bit about that perspective and give us a little insight into your work within that community of churches in Springfield, what you're doing?
We have to decide where we fit
Yes.
and where the need is, okay? Over half the churches are small churches under 100,
Mm-hmm.
okay? They can be intimidated by the noise of the larger church and really sometimes try to figure, where do I fit in? They know their people. That's the important thing, to know your people, to love your people, to care for your people, because that's where you keep your orientation, that and your time in the Scripture and your time with the Lord. But I decided, because of the involvement with the school board, I began to see some things that that's the largest children's ministry in the city, 25,000 kids.
Yes.
Wow.
And we've got Christian teachers that are in that system, but it's a system where there are teachers bailing out at a high level,
Yes.
Yes.
and it's a real concern. So we could be losing some of that impact. We have some of those teachers in our church at where I go to church at Second, and but these are wonderful, committed Christian men and women. And so I just looked around and realized that most pastors, there's no way they can be expected. They're taking care of their sheep. They're taking care of their flock. And it's they get up, they're preparing the messages. Most of them are bivocational. And so there's no way, you can't judge pastors for what they don't know. So God put it on my heart that, well, John, you know where the churches are. When I was at SBU teaching church growth, we actually mapped all the churches in Springfield, their growth patterns and everything. So I was very familiar with Springfield. So I just felt impressed. I know where the churches are. I know where the dead bodies are buried. I know what door to go to.
That's
I know
scary.
I know who to talk to. I know who's friendly and who's not. And I know what churches believe the word and which ones just, they have their own agenda. So I just said, it's on you, buddy.
Yes.
So I just, as we began to organize pastors,
Yes.
which has been no small challenge,
Yes.
but I just realized that if nobody else did it, I had to respond. I could do it. I knew how to do it and should do it, and that's what I've done. And
With
I've
your
been the
background.
one blessed
Very good.
as I meet with these churches.
John, not that long ago, you shared something with me that really, there's things that change your life. You made a statement one time about something your wife left you with. She left you with the charge and your passion. There's many levels to it, but that was something that really spoke to me because I have a very special wife,
Yes.
and
You're
she's
two very
been
blessed men.
so much a part of who I am. And how God's blessed me with a godly woman. You know what? That gives me a lot of responsibility. But would you mind sharing what your wife shared with you?
Yeah, we'd been married 53 years. It was her 73rd birthday week, and she had ovarian cancer, and this would be her last week, and she knew it. The doctor told her she only had hours. She had maybe days. And so during that time, we took her in on Friday, and she, to give you an idea of the kind of woman she is because of what she produced, and especially some of her kids, my daughter came into the hospital with her family with an elevator full of balloons. I mean, you could not have gotten on the elevator. It was that full. Mm-hmm. So they came in the room, and she said, the nurse said, well, what's going on? And she said, well, I'm going to heaven this week, and I'm having a birthday. So my kids came in, they had fun, and I walked them back to the elevator, and I came back. She says, John, while you were gone, I heard a voice. And we're not a family that hears voices, you understand. Well, she heard a voice. I said, well, what did the voice say? And she said, well, all it said was 5. Stop. She said, it just said it again. Okay. Unknown to us, she'd have 5 days. She'd go unconscious on Wednesday, and her birthday was on Saturday. So we're, before she goes unconscious, she says, John, hope I can say this. She said, you got 20 good years.
Yes.
Yes.
Make them count.
Yes.
Yes.
So as a result, I know I better take care of myself, and I know I better be busy in ministry because she's not expecting me to come there early because she's going to say, what are you doing here?
John, you foiled the plan.
Yeah, you left a lot undone, bud, So, but, as Christian brothers, we're very blessed to have.
Yes.
God made no mistake.
That's right.
When he created men and women.
That's right.
I mean, it's amazing. Mm-hmm. It is beyond our imaginations.
One of my favorite scriptures is, it
That's
was not
beautiful.
good for man to be left alone.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Well, and John,
And she got more beautiful as she got older. It was an amazing thing. I couldn't believe it. Go ahead.
how many people do you know? And not to denigrate how anybody handles grief, but a lot of people would just sit there and just wither because their mate had gone.
Yes.
You took it as a mission from God, which it was, and you're like, all right, I'm doing it, honey.
Yeah.
And you're doing it. And
I was a chaplain
Yeah.
intern while I was in seminary at Methodist Hospital, Houston. I'd never seen anybody die. I've had a
Yes.
family where people just didn't die, But I was in the cardio. I had Dr. Michael DeBakey. I was working with his patients. I mean, they came from around the world, and they were, they were just beginning to develop heart transplants
Yes.
and valves and that kind of thing. They just said, "Here we are, fix us." And but I saw a lot of people die, and I saw a lot of people that didn't know how to die, And
yes,
but
that weren't ready.
God has been very good to us. Christians die differently.
Yes.
There's a difference in the way we live and the difference in the way we die, and people should pick it up.
That's right.
And if they don't, there's something wrong.
Absolutely. Well, and the way that was prophetic. Yeah. He spoke to her and told her.
I've gotten where I tell.
That's amazing.
I tell other people I know.
Yeah.
I said, you got 20. They think they're old. I said, listen. I said, you got 20 good years left.
That's right.
Make it count.
Make it count.
And so it's something. It's one of those treasures that I can pass on to somebody else.
Yes.
Don't waste your life.
Mm-hmm.
That should be Kevin and mine's mantra. Yeah. Because after we survived COVID, I was very sick, and we just thought, you know what? We're alive. We're still alive. We need to do something.
And look what God has done the last year.
I know. Man, we never shut up, for sure. I was going to ask you, too. We've talked before, because you were around during the Jesus Revolution. Yeah. And you've been in ministry, really, since the late 1960s. Yeah. You were young. During the Jesus People movement in California, of course. And I remember you saying, because we talked about it before, and I remember you saying, oh, yeah, we need another movement like that. And I got to tell you, I really feel like there is something big going on. There is an undercurrent. Yeah. I feel like what's going to happen could be bigger than the Jesus movement.
Yes.
Because there were still...
Because we have medium and channels now that communicate on such a fast speed, so many places.
And we were so deceived.
Yes.
Even then, there were things we did not know that were absolutely wrong. Man, God is uncovering, exposing.
We give the enemy has a harder time now because we can outpace him.
And that's the truth. And I tell you, there's a shift and a change in the younger generations, the millennials, Gen Z, especially Gen Z. Yeah. I think Alpha is going to be even more so, maybe. Change in the media. Yeah. It's not the same. Let me tell you, buddy, they have blown their cover. We all know what liars so many of them are, and we're getting our information from different sources, and we're listening to each other, and we're listening to God. Yeah. And I think that it's changing everything. I don't know if you guys heard about this, but our good friend, Joe Rogan, this was on the Western Journal. I found this the other day, and I printed it up. And it says, the Lord is moving. Former mocker of Christianity, Joe Rogan, is now attending a church. And, he was an atheist, a self-proclaimed atheist for years. I don't think he's a bad guy, but I just think he's a great speaker, great talker. He interviews. Man, he is one of the best, really.
Very gifted.
Very gifted. This is what it says. UFC announcer and podcast mogul Joe Rogan, easily one of the most influential people in the world currently, is apparently regularly attending church now. Now, this was notable because Rogan, long a self-professed atheist, has long denigrated and mocked the church. Now, the guy that God used to get to him, well, there's been several people. Mm-hmm. I mean, look at all the people. Good grief. Peterson, what's his name?
Jordan Peterson.
Yeah, Jordan Peterson. Mm-hmm. I mean, I don't know that he's a Christian, but man, I mean, he's really changed a lot. Russell Brand. Did anybody see? He actually had his baptism televised.
Didn't see that coming.
When him and Tucker Carlson, he literally was down on his knees. Tucker said, well, would you pray? He said, well, sure I will. And he was down on his knees. Mm-hmm. Who would have seen that coming? Tucker Carlson, right after the big debacle at Fox News. I mean, there's no telling how many people wanted his head on a spear. Mm-hmm. But he said that he literally, and he was raised I think he was from an Episcopal church or something like that, never was encouraged to read the Bible or anything, very, very moderate. He woke up in bed one night. I don't know if you heard this, John, but he literally woke up with scratches and wounds all over him. Did you hear that? No. And he was terrified, mortified. First thing he did, because he's a news guy, is he started trying to look around and figure what had done it to him, of course. And then he figured out that it was something unknown. And he went on a journey from that point on. He didn't talk about it for a long time. And eventually he did. But he went to the Bible and he started reading. And like I said, that he is completely changed. He talks about God frequently. Nicole Shanahan, she's another one. The running mate of RFK. Mm-hmm. There was video of her getting dunked and coming up smiling and laughing. Amazing. Some of the
Denzel
stuff.
Washington.
Who would have thought? Yes, who would have thought all these people? I always liked him, though.
He's always been a Christian
I always thought he
brother,
was a good guy.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, one of the guys that God has been using, going around to all these podcasts that we're listening to now, these citizen journalists, is a man named Wesley Huff. And you guys have heard of him, I'm sure. You talk about an apologist. Oh my gosh, he's amazing. Here's what he said. He said, well, my conversation with Rogan went 3 hours and 15 minutes. So it's a little longer than this conversation Huff began. But yes, Joe Rogan and I have had on and off communication since then. And I can tell you for a fact that he's attending a church, and that has been a consistent thing. And so things are happening, and he's a very inquisitive individual. And I think for the better, in that he's communicating with me and other people in his life who are influences that can speak into these issues. He's a mentor. He's seeking mentors. Huff then recounted, and this is what's exciting, John. This is what's exciting because it's not just going on here. Did you know that in the UK, 50% uptake in church visitation, people going to church, and most of them are that young group, 18 to 24 years old. 50% in the UK, all over the world, all kinds of things going on. Here's the cool thing. Huff then recounted an anecdote of a brick and mortar Christian bookstore telling him that young people, a big part of Rogan's demographic, have been clamoring to purchase Bibles because all my friends are reading this thing.
Well, you know, it's second. What has really amazed me, just this, for the last 2 or 3 years, we sent like 20 or 30 young people, college kids, to Germany for like a month or two.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
You know, there are times when I would just leave our worship service just to go sit at a table in their room in the gym there at our church, because it's so invigorating and so energizing. You know, just to hear them share their problems and their needs, but to know how God is using them as a group of young people. It's a beautiful thing.
They want real.
Yeah.
They are seeking mentor.
Yeah.
Rogan, first thing he did was seek mentors. That's what these young ones in the Gen Z generation, some of the millennials even, and the alpha behind
them. And you can't do that if you don't put yourself in their proximity.
Yes, discipleship.
And just to let the conversation evolve naturally from your end and from their end, you know.
And they will engage.
And like at the table at the church, when they have prayer time, you know, and we get to share together prayer around the table. That's what binds us together, you know.
And I told Kevin, and I think I told you this too, when we were teenagers, it wasn't cool to talk to old people. These kids will talk to you.
Yeah.
All you have to do is show friendship. You know, show that you want to talk to them, you want to engage.
And not be intimidated.
Yes, and they're ready and they're willing. I love it. And they're truth seekers.
Yeah.
They want to know. They want to know a deeper answer. They don't want surface. I love it.
They want to be spiritually respected.
Yes.
Yes, they do.
And if you spiritually respect them, you have communication.
Yep.
I tell you, God is preparing some amazing things for that group.
Yeah.
I think we're going to have another Jesus revolution, maybe even bigger and better. So cool. The story about the button that sits on your desk from the Campus Crusade for Christ International Days. Tell me what it says.
It's about that big.
Yes.
It's red, white, and blue, I think, and it says, "Come help change the world."
Yes.
Now,
hallelujah.
That simple button really encapsulates what I think my life is all about.
Yes.
It's like when I taught at SBU and I would teach church growth, I said, now, if you're just here to write a paper, you know, when you have your paper, and you're going to put it in the trash, I said, you're in the wrong class.
Yeah.
I said, we're here to raise up world changers.
That's right.
So I said, that's what we're about. So it doesn't matter where, so when I have about a dozen things I say to total strangers. It can be kids, it can be little kids, it can be teenage kids, it can be adults, whether they're married or not married or whatever. But it just keeps me loose to where, you know, I want to know how, and people will come by my table afterwards. I had a guy that paid my meal the other day. You know, all I did was just say, okay, you two. The word for the day is take care of each other. That's all I said was,
Well,
You engaged.
yes. And they just sit there and when you first say you too, they, they get a little up, they don't know what's coming at them. But I say, I tell a parent, Dad, you're doing a good job. Never doubt it. These kind of things, they're just ways, it keeps me loose to where as we relate to people, that's what we're about. It's changing the world where we are. If I see a kid, I saw 2 kids today over Sam's, walked over, total strangers. I said, guys, do you realize that you have as many brain cells as there are stars in our galaxy? 200 billion right there. 200 billion.
Yes.
And I says, and your mom and your dad and God gave them to you free. And I said, and you'll give them to your kids free. I said, but you're smarter than you think you are,
Yes.
yes.
And parents say, that's good advice, kids. And I says, Mom and Dad, you're doing a good job. Never doubt it. Because they need to hear it,
Yes.
And sometimes they need to hear that they're better than they think they are.
Oh, yeah.
Because so many kids, so many people, so many young people beat up on themselves.
Yeah.
And even if they're Christians and they've asked for forgiveness, they have a hard time. The enemy taunts them.
We don't want them to waste their life. We don't want to waste our life.
That's right.
And they
Yeah.
need to know that their life is so precious.
Oh my gosh,
I mean,
yeah.
we are like the flower, and we are here today, and we are gone tomorrow.
That's right.
And we are here to be a voice for God, like with John the Baptist. And
Yes.
if we fail to do that, we have really missed an opportunity. That's what we're all about, and it can happen anytime, anywhere.
Yeah.
It's not. I've learned it's. When I was a kid, I wanted, this thing about praying until I heard Paul Young show at York Full Gospel Church. So how do you pray 24 hours a day? Well, you just pray as you go along,
Yes.
Oh yeah.
It's just
One or two sentences. Yes.
And when I was talking to a guy the other day, I said, when you see a for sale sign, I said, that's a prayer sign. I said, I guarantee you, they're praying to sell that house. I said, just walk up and knock on their door and just say, I see you have a for sale sign. And I want you to know, I'd like to pray with you that God will help you and encourage you as he brings that one buyer by to sell your house. And then there's a realtor's name on that sign. And you call them and you tell them that you're praying that they can sell that house. I said, it's...
You are so pragmatic. I love it.
It is easy. It is easy. Don't make it difficult.
Yes.
Yes.
So awesome. I love that. That is cool. I'm going to ask you, this is the last question I'm going to ask you because I want you to, I think you can expound on this a little bit and give us some good insight. You've been around a while, you've seen a lot of things. The fire that you have.
Yeah.
It's faithfulness, it's determination, it's trust.
It's mentorship
world.
to somebody that mentored into my life.
Yes, the world needs more of it.
Yeah.
At this point, the world needs more of it. The thing that you and the other Firebrand pastors all have in common is tunnel vision, faithfulness. You set your sight on something, all hell can be breaking loose around you. Doesn't matter. You're going to go for exactly what you know, and God takes over, and what comes out of your mouth is absolutely Spirit-led. It's just the most amazing thing how God uses someone, a soul, who is sold out and has that tunnel vision, spirit tunnel vision. And I guess mission drift.
Yes.
Mission drift. How do we get that in this age where we've got this group of kids that are coming in, this generation, multiple generations that are coming in? The church is changing. It's got to change. You said something that I loved.
Let me respond for a second to the Firebrand thing.
That was okay.
Okay.
Yes, go ahead.
My friend, Dr. Elmer Towns, who is co-founder of Liberty University, we've written together, we're friends for a long, long time. He has a saying that I don't know where he got it from, but it never left me. He says, when you go to brand a cow, he says, the iron is always cold until you put it in the fire. But when there's fire in the iron, he says, that's when you brand the cow
Yes.
and you make the difference. And I was sharing with you in my first church, I had 2 jobs. I was going to college, and it was just, I was married. There was a lot going on. And one of those weeks, and it's my little country church, and we met in a house where I had more bumblebees than I had people. They come out in the summertime. And I started with 2 people, and we grew it to 50 out in the sharecropping area, if you don't know what that is.
Yes.
And
yes.
So But that one week, I mean, I just had no time to study. I was not in the Word that week. It was just a crazy week. And I remember stepping in and to preach to my little congregation on that Sunday morning. And I remember that I did not have fire in the iron. It was the most miserable, most embarrassing moment of my life. And I promised the Lord, I said, Lord, if you'll just help me to gracefully finish this and just shut up, and I promise you, I will never, ever, ever embarrass you again. And that was a major, major turning point in my life. That goes back to what Elmer was saying.
Yes.
If there is not fire in the iron, and you can tell when you go to a church whether there's fire in the iron or not. And it's not just a matter of having a good message.
No.
It's the fact that that you've got a message from God, and they know that when you speak, that you've got something to say because God's given it to you. You're not just talking. There's a difference in talking and having something to say.
Yes.
Okay. Now you were leading to somewhere else there.
Oh
too.
no, that was exactly what I was heading to. That was very good. And mission drift. Another thing you talk about is mission drift.
Yeah.
It's not just the fact that the fire's not in the iron in the pulpit, but there's a mission drift in the church, and it's an American church thing. It's in our culture.
Yeah.
In order to, like I told you earlier, these younger generations, they deserve better.
Yeah.
They deserve fire in the iron and in the pulpit.
I want to interject something there.
Yes.
This generation now, something about them, what I know about our generation was we thought we were lied to. This generation, they know they've been lied to, and they watched as our society fell apart when they started talking about masks and vaccines, and people just started cowering and just going along, or a few people started standing up. This generation grew up in the middle of that, and no doubt they were confused, but they've come to the point where they realized they got to figure things out for themselves. And because of that, when they hear the truth, they are drawn to it.
Yes.
And we've got an opportunity now like we've never had before. I see a generation seeking that truth and seeking God. And I see you do that very well. The conversations you have, the simple things like you said about just having a simple conversation with somebody is so important.
And encouragement.
I think that part of our challenge has been that there has been a time, and maybe it still exists, when there's this aversion to labels.
Mm-hmm.
But I gave you the illustration of when I was in China. The Chinese Communist government said, we're going to get rid of this foreign influence. Mm-hmm. We're going to take all the labels off all the churches. It's just going to be Grace Church and Trinity Church and whatever, okay? But when you come down to it, it's not the label only reflects if you don't put a label on, if you don't identify the label, people will put a label on you.
That's right.
As Baptists, that was not something we chose. That was a derogatory term. Mm-hmm. They said, you won't be baptized the way we baptize you? We'll baptize you twice. Mm-hmm. They'll go ahead and they would cut their tongues out. They would take their skin off. They cut their heads off. They throw them and they would drown them. They said, we'll baptize you the third time. Okay? So it was a name that was given to us. In America, Baptist churches early on were just called Churches of Christ before the Carmelites came along, okay? Or before the Mormons came on.
Yep.
Okay. So when the Chinese made that decision, I think it's a good illustration because it shows that who are you? What do you believe from the Word of God?
Yes.
And be unapologetic about it. Know the history of your people. Whether it's in the Old Testament, the Jews of Jesus' time, they had their history. They didn't just pop up and just happen.
No.
They came out of a history. We as Christians come out of a history. There have been martyrs. There have been others. Mm-hmm. And there are things that have caused maybe your independent church, your denominational church to happen. What was it that caused that body of believers you belong to come into existence? There was a reason for that.
Yes.
And there were some convictions about the Word that brought that about. And it may have been, I've got Ukrainian friends, they have Ukrainian churches. I got friends that are Korean, they've got Korean churches. I've got friends that are Hispanic, they got Hispanic churches, and they're all kinds of groups. but we didn't know why we are who we are and why we are not something else scripturally.
Yes.
And that's very important in our age because the culture has a way of, we were talking about this, of to tame you down. They will name you, they will blame you, they will shame you, and then they will tame you, and then there is a lame you.
Yes.
And so because you are trying to just, it's like C.S. Lewis said, and we heard this again Sunday, people that stop believing God don't believe in nothing, they'll believe anything.
Yes.
And that's where our culture is.
Yes.
You know, if you are assembly, be an assembly. Know why you are and preach the word. If
right.
you're a Baptist, if you're an independent, whatever you are, know what a cult is. Know why you're not something else. When I was in seminary, we had a course in historical theology, which is about cults. And our final exam was to sit down in front of the professor and eyeball to eyeball, he was the guy. And we had to go ahead and relate to him. I mean, we were on the line. That was our grade for the entire semester. It was win or lose.
Yep.
And within our Christian life, we need to know who we are, what we believe, and think about those communist Chinese. They thought they could take away the label and would change who they were. Okay? If you don't identify with a label, people will put a label on you.
That's right.
Okay? So that's just reality.
Yes.
It's good.
And also, as a church grows larger, there was a time as Southern Baptist, we had courses that everybody took on church history, on cults, on how to study the Bible, on all these things. And we were well informed. Somewhere along the line, that disappeared.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
And all of a sudden, we're just Christians. Well, tell the Chinese communists that, you know.
Yep.
That is true bottom line, but we don't all believe the same thing about the scriptures as we understand it. And we've got to know, whatever you believe, you'd better be able to ground it in scripture and know what you stand before God and how you're going to respond to him when you say, I tell people when I get to heaven, John, why are you here? Well, I've got a reservation. Jesus is expecting me.
That's right.
You know, and I have the authority of God's word on that.
That's right.
It's not an if and maybe, hope so, maybe.
Nope.
I know it. And that's
Yes.
that's what, you know, what my wife, like what she said, you got 20 years left, John, make them count, you know?
Yes.
Yes.
And we don't want to waste our lives.
Oh, no.
And so we need to help the younger generation to know that the mistakes we made, not just, we need to be very open about it.
Yes.
What do we do? I always say, if you had a chance to sit down with 200 kings and they could tell you what they did right and what they did stupid, would you listen to them?
Absolutely.
They're in the Bible. They're in the Bible.
Yes.
You know, nations that have done stupid things and God has dealt with them and they have disappeared. And we're like a flower. We're here today and we are gone tomorrow.
Yes.
Yes.
So who are you and what are we about? And we don't want to waste our life.
Yes. There's so much that John can share. I hate that we're short on time, but we have that audio only, and I'm going to go ahead and get that put up to where everybody can listen to a little more. And we want to visit with John more again another time.
We both have fun doing what we do.
Oh yes, we could do this all night long, but reality sets in, and we're limited in this world.
Got it. That's right.
Yes,
Yeah.
but Juanita,
Yes.
We can't spend the same time twice.
yes.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, that's right.
One last thing I'd like to add is something God's really been sharing with me, and it's just been speaking to me, is the Israelites. When they had the opportunity to go to the Promised Land, they blew it, and they didn't know who they were. They didn't realize that God was going to give them that land, and because they rejected it, they turned around. They had to wander around the wilderness for a long time, and there was only 2 of them that I know of that had a good report when they went in and said, we can take it. That's right. We are that generation, John. We are here now, and this generation now, they are the ones that's going to take back that land. They're going to take territory back.
Beautiful
and
people.
we've got an opportunity to be a part of that. We just need to listen to them, and we need to encourage them, and we need to speak the truth to them.
And what you guys are both saying is very true. And you can tell, you watch Satan's attacks, and to find out just exactly what he's trying to take. He's trying to take the identity
That's
of these
right.
kids. Well, folks, thank you very much for being here and joining us for this conversation with Dr. John Vaughan, a remarkable man. I told you. I bet y'all enjoyed him. Now, Kevin, do we need to check and see if we got everything this time?
What? You wanted to record this?
Right? Okay.
Well,
Sarcasm. I got it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
Because I'm doubting you. Okay.
Yes.
Well, folks, we'll just keep our fingers crossed. We hope that you're
I
having
think
a...
I hit the button.
Oh, gosh. Okay. Well, we hope that you're having a good day wherever you're at. And we hope that you'll drop in and join us again next Sunday afternoon. This is great. It's getting to be a habit. This is pretty cool. As we bring more news, more information, and always, folks, hopefully more encouragement. There always needs to be good news to help you stay informed, inspired, and always stay independent. God bless. You all have a great week.